41 years old right now. Saturday night. Family happens to be out. I'm sitting at home reminiscing on some earlier memories. So I figured here's one story that I experienced in my life that I never really documented and recorded. Something that really, I don't know, I guess it didn't have that much of an impact on me, but maybe it did. But it was a profound story that happened back in 1989. So I figured, why not? I'm sitting at home chilling by myself. I'll record it. Well, 1989, I think it was mid-year. Let's say it was later, after winter. Winter was just starting to break. Spring was starting to come, but it wasn't spring yet because it was still a little bit chilly. And I had a very good friend. His name was Dwayne LaBelle, and we're in the same art class together. So we're sitting in art class, and we're just shooting our mouths off, and here comes Reggie Fikes asking a big question to a couple of grade 9s. Who's tougher than who? Well, me and Dwayne had always fought like upstairs, wrestling and stuff like that, screwing around, because we started developing a really good friendship. So because of our hot-headedness, we suggested that one was tougher than the other. And then the other said, no, you're not. And the other person said, yes, you are, and this and that, back and forth. But you get the idea. A couple of 2 grade 9s, and you have everybody in the class saying, ooh, screaming and all that. And then Reggie just getting us all riled up. Sure enough, somebody asked if we would consider after school proving to everybody who was the toughest. So we had to prove our manhood, grade 9, you know how it is. And sure enough, after school, me and Dwayne were ready to fight. So I go outside the school, and I'm kind of nervous, and I'm sure he was. So I'm saying this from my perspective. So I'm walking outside the school. I don't know where he was at this point, but I knew we had to meet at Lansbury Park. So I walk out to school, and everybody's still waiting, because, fight, fight, fight. Everybody's freaking out, waiting to find out who this fight was going to be. Well, sure enough, my sister had heard about this fight, and she was waiting for this fight too. So when she seen me coming out of the school, and everybody's pointing at that I was the guy that was fighting, she freaked out, came over, and told me that there's not a chance that I was going to be fighting. So being in grade 9, I didn't want this to affect my reputation, which I thought was going to affect my reputation. I pleaded with her to leave me alone and let me fight. She resisted, so we went back and forth, back and forth. I said, Mary, please, don't do this to me. You're going to devastate my grade 9 year. You're going to devastate my high school reputation. Leave me alone. I got to fight. She says, what are you fighting for? And I said, I don't care. I just got to fight. So she left me alone. That was a story in itself. So we go to the school. We go to the park. And Dwayne had already reached there, and there was a big circle around us. Now, keep in mind that me and Dwayne were actually friends. We were very good friends in grade 9. So because we wanted to maintain or not even maintain, develop our, whatever it's called, our reputation, we're willing to fight like idiots to accommodate this. So sure enough, we started fighting and everybody screaming. And I remember I was wearing my wrestling shirt at the time because I had just joined the wrestling team or whatever. And I hear somebody screaming in the background, hey, he's in the wrestling team. So all we did was just wrestle. And somehow my arm must have hit Dwayne's nose in such a way, it wasn't a punch, that his nose started bleeding. And then somebody screamed, hey, his nose is bleeding. So I guess blood must determine who the winner is because everybody jumped in. And they suggested that I won the fight. And Dwayne, if you end up watching this sometime in your life, I won that fight. Okay? You ended up bleeding. I don't know how it happened. Maybe you hit your own nose and you started bleeding. But the fact is, blood came out of your nose. The fight was broken. Everybody said he was bleeding. And I was declared the winner and the victor by everybody. So, obviously, me and Dwayne never talked again after that. We were the enemies or whatever that BS stuff happens in grade 9 because we fought. But it was so stupid. It was the most ridiculous thing in the world because I really enjoyed Dwayne's company before that. I don't even know why I fought. It was the most ridiculous thing in the world. And I don't even know if he knows why he fought. It was so stupid. But we entertained everybody and life goes on in grade 9. Well, a few months later, my dad, his mom was sick in Greece and he had to leave. And my dad was, he was a big alcoholic, which kind of screwed us up growing up. But anyways, the reason this is important is that he left the house to go to Greece to go visit his mom who was ill at the time, and left me and my sister back at home with my mom and my little brother. Well, that was the opportunity that my sister needed to get out of the house and go party and have some fun. Because my dad was very, very strict, and we experienced some problems at home and all this kind of stuff. But as soon as my dad left, it was a Saturday night. He was already gone, and my sister wanted to sleep at her friend Rami's house. Well, the way that my mom worked back then for many years is that my sister was not allowed to do anything unless I went. So Mary agreed to it. I got ready, Mary got ready, and we left the house, and we were both going to go to Rami's house to sleep out. Well, I didn't know that after we reached a couple blocks, Mary had already had different plans, and she didn't want me sleeping at Rami's house, so she told me to find plans of my own. I suspect it was around 10 o'clock in the evening at this point. At grade 9, who do you know whose house you can go to in grade 9? All my friends' parents were kind of strict. You couldn't just show up at their house at 10 o'clock and ask to sleep over or hang out. I never even slept over at my buddy's house. So at 10 o'clock, when Mary told me that I had to find a place where to go, the first person that I thought of was Dwayne, who I had already gotten into a fight with. I don't know why I thought about it, but I just thought that this would have been a good opportunity maybe for us to stitch our relationship back together, whatever the case may be. So I went to a phone booth, called him up, he picked up the phone, I talked to him, or maybe he didn't pick up the phone, somebody called him on the phone, talked to him, and I made it look like nothing was going on, and if he was interested in just chilling that night, hanging out. And he was happy that I called, and told me to go over to his house, gave me his address, and told me to go through the side door, and he would sneak me in the house. So I made arrangements with Mary that night, that the following morning, at 9 o'clock in the morning, or 8 o'clock, at 8 o'clock in the morning, me and Mary would meet in front of the YMCA. Because her friend had rented a room at the YMCA that night, and Mary knew that she was going to be there. So she said, okay, at 8 o'clock in the morning, this is our plan. We meet up, and we go back home, and life goes on. So I was a little bit nervous at first, but I had to do it. What was I going to do? I was already out of the house. What am I going to do? Go back home and tell my mom that, no, my sister, Mary, told me that I had to find my own place? No, I had no option. So anyways, called up Dwayne. Dwayne says, come on over. Go over to Dwayne's house, knock on the side basement window. He opens it up. I sneak in through the side window. We go inside. And the reason that I remember it was a Saturday, because Saturday Night Live ended up playing that night. So me and Dwayne are sitting in his basement, just shooting the breeze, talking, watching Saturday Night Live. And then there was a quiet upstairs, which meant Dwayne's parents were sleeping. Now, I don't know how this happened. I don't know who came up with the idea or how this transpired. But all I know and all I remember is Dwayne going upstairs and then coming back downstairs. And I remember him walking. I remember seeing his feet walking down the stairs and him dangling a pair of keys. And the keys were his parents' car, his stepdad's car, and his mom's car. It was a white Firebird, a Thunderbird. It was like some type of sports car that was super, super fast, which I found out soon enough. So he comes downstairs all smiling and excited, and I'm kind of excited. What's going on? And he says, come on, we're going to take my stepdad's car. I said, you're crazy. And he goes, come on, let's do it. And I said, yeah, of course. I was in. I wasn't going to give any resistance. We sneak back out the window, jump in this, I think it was white Firebird, a Thunderbird, and we started cruising around the neighborhood. Well, cruising around the neighborhood, we ended up going to some type of pool hall. And by this point, Saturday Night Live was already done, so I suspect it was around 12 o'clock, maybe 1, I don't know. So we go into this pool hall. There's a bunch of bikers that were playing pool, a bunch of smoke all over the place. And it appeared that everybody knew Dwayne. They're like, hey, Dwayne, what's up? Dwayne. So I'm like, wow, because I came from such a straight-laced environment, and I was like, what is happening over here, right? I thought it was kind of like weird and neat and exciting at the same time. So we sat there and played a little bit of pool, and Dwayne's talking to people, and just like, here's a 14-year-old that knew everybody at the bar already, or at this pool hall, whatever it was. So I thought it was like the coolest thing in the world. Well, we ended up hanging out there for a bit, and we left, and we're driving around. But keep in mind that we're driving around very safely, Dwayne's driving, and we're taking little tiny streets, the side streets. We're not taking any of the big streets. And he ends up telling me that he wants to go visit one of his buddies. It's like, all right, cool. So we go to his buddy's place, but all of a sudden we pull up in behind this church. I'm like, Dwayne, what are you doing behind the church? He goes, oh, my buddy lives over here. He's a priest. I go, priest? Now keep in mind, I still have a high level of respect for priests. Just because there's some bad apples in the mix does not suggest, does not mean or imply that the rest of the church is wrong. Okay? This just happened to be a bad priest. That's all it is. Anyways, we go to this priest's place. He was a Roman Catholic priest. And there was a house in behind the church. And this is on Wyandotte and Marintet or something like that. But as soon as we pull up, we look and we see like a couple of broads leaving, a couple of girls leaving the priest's house. So he's joking with them and talking with them, and they're carrying a couple of balloons. There's something like that going on. And I could have sworn that I remember seeing him smacking their butts as they're walking out. It was just a bizarre situation. Dwayne goes, that's him, that's my buddy. I said, all right. So we get out of the car, we go up to the priest's house, and he sees us walking towards him, and he's like, hey, Dwayne, what's going on? Come on in. So me and Dwayne go inside of his house, we sit down. He's like, hey, you guys want a beer? Now, we're 14 years old at the time, okay? And here's this priest asking us if we wanted a beer. So Dwayne goes, yeah, sure. So he grabs Dwayne a beer. He asks me, and I'm like, no, it's okay. I was scared at the time. So he says, hey, if you guys have any, I don't want to swear in this video, but he ended up talking about the woman's genitalia. Okay, have you had any blank lately or tonight or whatever the case may be? So we're all laughing. Well, not we. Dwayne's laughing. The priest is laughing. Dwayne's like, no, we're just hanging out. And I'm thinking, what in the world is happening over here? Who is this guy? So I go, excuse me, are you allowed to talk like that as a priest? And then all of a sudden he goes from a smiling face to a very serious face, and he goes, what's your problem? Or he said something very stern. So I got scared, and I responded with something like, listen, I don't know, I'm just asking. I don't know anything about religion. I just wanted to know, like, are priests allowed to, like, hang out, like, be cool like that or something? So then he just didn't even answer me. He kind of went back into the conversation and rubbed it off. But I found it very, very bizarre that here's this, now as an adult, like when I was young, I didn't think really much of it, but as an adult, you realize how pathetic it is for like a 30, 40-year-old, however old he was, to be doing what he was doing, especially as a priest. Talking to a couple of young punks that had just popped over at his house at 1 o'clock in the morning, talking to him about chicks, passing on beers and all this kind of stuff. It doesn't make any sense, man. It's so messed up. As a matter of fact, I think about a year ago, I ended up reading an article in the Windsor Star that had suggested that some priest, and I think it was him, was nabbed for getting some girl pregnant, a teenager girl pregnant, and not paying child support, and they're going after him or something like that. Some disgusting nastiness. But anyways, I believe this is the same guy. So we hung out there for a little bit, talked and this and that, and we ended up leaving. Well, as we're leaving, me and Dwayne had run out of money. We wanted to go back to the pool hall to play some more games, but we had no cash. So I remember my sister telling me that she was going to be staying at the YMCA. So I said, okay, well, my sister's staying at the YMCA. Maybe we can go over there and find her, and she can give us a couple of bucks, and we can go play pool and this and that. Totally stupidness. Anyways, that was the idea. That was the only idea. So me and Dwayne went down to the YMCA. Sure enough, it was closed. It was locked. We couldn't get in. So we went in through the back, the alley, and we went up through the steel stairs, tried to move the door, and it was locked. I don't know how, but Dwayne grabbed it and moved it in such a way that it ended up popping open. So all of a sudden, we found ourselves inside the YMCA. Now, the hallways in the YMCA were very narrow. You could barely make your way through with two people walking side by side. Really, really tight. I don't even know how they would allow something like that, like even with a building code. But anyways, that's besides the point. So we're walking through these narrow hallways, and as we're walking, all of a sudden I hear, hey! Or we hear, hey! And behind me, was this huge security guard. He was an older man, but he was a big security guard. And he grabs my shirt while Dwayne's in front of me, and the security guard's behind me, and the door that we had entered through was still behind me. I look in front of me, Dwayne disappears. Boom! In the YMCA. And I'm being held by this security guard. He goes, "How'd you get in here?" I go, "The key." He goes, "What key?" I go, the key at the door." He goes, "The key? Which key?" I go, "Come on, I'll show you. So I squeeze by him to get in through the rear door. And as soon as I pass by him, boom! I take off and I'm out of there. Run out the door, down the steel stairs, I'm back in the alley. And the guy was kind of big and he was older and he couldn't catch me. But I'm thinking, wait a second, we got a problem here. Because my buddy Dwayne is stuck in the YMCA. And he was in front of me. And the security guard was behind me where the door was. Dwayne's going to get nabbed. This is a disaster. So I'm freaking out. I'm pacing back and forth in the alley, waiting to find out what the heck's going on. I don't know what's going on. Freaking out. I don't know how many minutes later, but all of a sudden there was this side door in the YMCA that was a fire escape door. And it had one of those ladders that you go on it and it goes down. All of a sudden I see, boom, the door busting open up top. It was like the second or third floor, whatever it was. And Dwayne jumping out that door, laughing, screaming, grabbing those stairs, and the ladder went down to the alley, and he started running. He escaped. I'm thinking, oh my God, this is crazy. This is like a movie. And Dwayne's laughing, and I'm laughing. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. Let's go. So we jump in, boom, back in the car, and we take off. Well, we take off, and I think we probably went back to the pool hall for a little bit, even though we had no money. And we're just chilling, walking around. I'm like, man, we got to get some cash. And he's like, oh, we need some money so we can play or whatever. And by this point, it was probably around 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I was like, wait a second. I remember my sister telling me that there was this one club called the Exchange on Ouellette, which used to stay open till 4 o'clock in the morning. All the teenagers used to go over there after closing. There was no alcohol, but they opened it up to all the teenagers from high schools. I go, I bet you my sister's at the Exchange. Let's go check it out. We had nothing to do anyways. We had no money. We had nothing else to do. So we pull up. We're on Ouellette Avenue. We had pulled up in front of the Exchange. And there was tons of people. So it was around 3 o'clock in the morning. Tons of people in the front. And all of a sudden we seen this one girl, Shauna. Well, I didn't really know Shauna. I just remembered Shauna by her name and by her face. Because we're in grade 9, you're trying to be cool. And you kind of sort of learning people's names, but you really don't know them yet. And she was a very pretty girl. I don't know if Dwayne knew her or not. I didn't know her. I just knew her from school. And I guess she knew me from school, and I'm sure she knew Dwayne from school. But I don't remember ever talking to her before. And I don't know if Dwayne ever talked to her before either. When she seen us, she recognized us, ran up to the car, and she's wondering what's going on. So Dwayne and I are being cool. We're in a car. We're driving, grade 9s, on top of the world. Here's this pretty girl. And it just so happened that Shauna's parents thought that she was sleeping. She had snuck out of the house to go to this dance. So she had to hurry up and get back home. So we told her we'd give her a ride. So she jumps in the car, and we started driving away. Well, at this point, me and Dwayne were not worried about taking the little side streets anymore. We wanted to be cool. Here we had this really good-looking girl that was in the back seat. Dwayne was driving. I was in the passenger seat. We're kind of kicking it back, moving the chair back, just driving, just trying to look all cool. She's hovering in between the two seats, moving her forward as we're laughing and we're talking. Well, we ended up taking some bigger streets. And we reached an intersection where we came to a stop, and in front of us was a cop. Well, this cop stopped. We stopped. It was a four-way stop. I go, Dwayne, turn right. So he turns right. Well, we didn't know that it was a one-way street, the wrong way. Sure enough, cops are behind us. Cops turn on their lights. And I don't know why, but I asked Dwayne to ignore the lights. I said, Dwayne, forget about the stupid lights. Let's go. If they put their sirens on, we'll pull over. Maybe something's up, whatever. Just keep driving. Doesn't make any sense. You're talking about grade 9s. Dwayne kept driving. All of a sudden you hear, rear, They put their sirens on. Well, Dwayne didn't care. He started laughing. And he started driving faster and faster in downtown with the cops chasing us. Now, I'm asking Dwayne to pull over. He's not pulling over. Shauna's crying, freaking out in the back seat because her mom thinks that she's sleeping at home. She has snuck out of the house. Dwayne's not pulling over. And he's making lefts and rights and doing all these turns all over downtown with the cops on our tail. And he's laughing at this point because he thinks this is hilarious. Apparently, we must have reached this level of absurdity that he just had to have fun. Well, I'm freaking out. I'm thinking, okay, my mom thinks that I'm with my sister right now. We have cops behind us. This is an absolute disaster. Finally, Dwayne pulls over. After, I don't know how many minutes. It seemed like a lifetime, but Dwayne finally pulled over. Cops come behind us. They go up to Dwayne's car, side of the car, and they go, let us see your registration, license, or whatever. And Dwayne goes, no, I don't have one. They're like, really? Boom! They grab Dwayne, yank him out of the car, and I don't know, he was kind of like laughing. He wasn't scared at all. This kid had zero fear. He was totally laughing, relaxing. It was absolutely insane. The coolest freaking kid, I thought. And I still think he's freaking cool. Well, he pulls him out of the car. And the other cop goes on my side of the door, opens it up, grabs me, grabs Shauna. Shauna's bawling, freaking out, crying. Well, they put Dwayne in the car. The other cop puts Shauna in the car, and he's about to put me in the car. And then I ended up hitting his arm away from my shoulder, and I started running. And as I'm running, I was wearing sandals. So it must have been like right about spring. As I'm running, one of my sandals comes off. So I turn around, I started running back to get my sandal as the cop is running towards me. So I was quick enough to turn around, grab my sandal, and keep running. And as I'm running, my second sandal falls off. So now I have to stop, turn around, run back, get my second sandal, as I can see this cop running towards me. So you can imagine how fast I was going. I grabbed my second sandal, turn around, boom, I was gone. I ended up finding my way into this alley in between Ouellette and Polisher. So I found a safe place, and it must have been around 4 o'clock in the morning by this time. And I'm petrified, freaking out. And I was in between a couple of buildings, and I seen this white van and some people coming out, moving some stuff from behind their building into the van. And then they looked kind of like bikers. And then somebody said, hey, look at that, who's over there? So they looked at me, and I go, hey, listen, I'm just hiding from the cops. I have no problems. And the one guy goes, cops, get the fuck out of here. So boom, I had to take off and start running down the street again. Who knows what they were doing? So I found myself running again. Now, after a couple blocks of running, I found this one area where there was there was this little steel thing where people would put grease in, a grease bucket, whatever it's called, behind some type of restaurant, still in the alley between Polisher and Ouellette, and I ended up hiding. It was a perfect hiding spot. But I was petrified. My heart's pumping, and I knew that Dwayne was already arrested. I knew Shauna was already arrested, and they're looking for me, and I'm freaking out. I'm thinking, this is insane. I've never done anything like this. This is crazy. And I was hidden in an area in between two buildings where I could see Ouellette Avenue, and Ouellette was the main street. And I could see, and I hear the cop cars just going back and forth. Chaos just happening on Ouellette. And the whole downtown, they're searching for this little punk that had run away. Well, I don't know how long after that. It felt like, I don't know what it felt like. But anyways, I'm petrified. And sure enough, I see lights coming down the alley. And the lights ended up stopping on me. And then I hear, don't move. So I put my arms up. I go, I'm not moving. I'm not moving. It was a cop car. He stopped. They put the lights on me. They came out, grabbed me, lifted me up, and said, we're going to wait for the cop to come that you ran away from. I'm like, oh man, I remember hearing stories. I'm thinking, stories of people getting almost freaking killed by these cops. I've never had any problems with cops. Me running away from cops, this guy's going to kill me. Anyways, cop comes finally. Vroom, 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 vroom. The whole alley fills with cop cars. And I see this one guy just running, just walking towards me. He was ready. You see that he just wanted to demolish me. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I better start acting right now because this guy's going to destroy me. I couldn't cry. I tried my hardest to cry. I tried these tears to come out, but they wouldn't come out. So I go, sir, please listen. I'm sorry. I've never been in trouble. I don't know what to do. As he's walking towards me, and he grabs me. He kicks me up against the wall, and he started slamming me back against the brick wall. And then he grabs my nose and just started boom, boom. But he didn't punch me. It was kind of like he was giving me like little hits just to scare me. I don't know what he was doing. He seen I was sitting there pretending I was scared, but I mean, like, I had to like bring it to a different level. I was like, sir, I'm sorry. And he's doing one of these. Well, after he shook me up a little bit, he grabbed me, boom, throws me inside of a cop car, and ended up next to Dwayne and Shauna. Shauna's still crying. Dwayne's laughing. He's like, man, this is crazy. This is insane. Oh my God, I can't believe it. Whatever he was saying. I'm like, Dwayne, we're dead, man. My parents are going to kill me. My mom's going to kill me. And he's like, listen, man, let's have fun. Something along those lines. Well, as we're driving away to the cop station, Dwayne's laughing. And he's like, hey, I can't believe that a little grade 9 outran a couple of adult cops. And the one cop turns around and goes, shut the F up. And then the other cop driving goes, hey, ignore him. And Dwayne's laughing. And then Shauna's like, Dwayne, you're such an asshole. Shut up. And Dwayne's just killing himself laughing. And I'm thinking, I'm dead anyways. I might as well just start enjoying this right now because this is like insanity. So I started chilling down thinking, okay, well, I'm dead. I'm absolutely dead. I might as well just relax right now, which I did. And Dwayne started laughing with the cop saying, hey, you guys got to smoke? The cop's getting pissed off, wants to just punch out Dwayne, but he doesn't. Well, Shauna gets pulled out of the car, and me and Dwayne get thrown into this little cell. After we get thrown into this little cell, we had to go up and write our names, or he wrote our names, asked us who we were. But it was a little tiny cell. It was like a 4x4 cage with a little seat that we sat together with. And then they were going to separate us. I said, okay, let's go. And at that moment, me and Dwayne knew we were going to be separated. We said, you know what? It is what it is. We're dead, but this night has been absolutely insane. So we kind of like slapped five, and we said, okay, man, I'll see you when we get out. Remember, we were good friends before that. They ended up putting me in my own cell and Dwayne in his own cell. I don't know how many hours later, I could hear my mom's voice, crying, screaming, and all that stuff. So, they opened it up. Sure, it was my mom. She got in the car, started driving home, and she's freaking out, crying. And I don't know what to say, and I'm saying, I'm sorry, and she's completely losing it, freaking out, crying. And she says, let's go pick up Mary. And I'm thinking, Mary? How in the heck are we going to get Mary? I don't even know where Mary is. We're not at Rami's house, so now I have to cover for Mary. I said, Mom, I don't want Mary to have like a nervous breakdown. Let's go home. And I told Mary that I was going to meet her at 8 o'clock in the morning. By this point, maybe it was around 6 or 7 or something like that. By the time my mom picked me up. I said, let me go back and meet up with Mary, and then I'll bring her home, because I don't want her to get upset. My mom believed me. She said, okay, you go get her. So we went home. I jumped on my dad's old bike, beat her, and made my way back downtown to the YMCA. Now, me and Mary had already made plans at 8 o'clock to meet. Go home. 8 o'clock comes, and I'm waiting, nothing. It's freezing at this time. And I remember wearing shorts and a t-shirt. It's getting colder and colder and colder. And I'm waiting, and time is passing, 8:15, 8:30, 8:45. And I mean, it was cold. And I had nowhere to go. Where's I going to go? Everything was closed. Like, I couldn't warm up. I was just shivering. I was trying to hold myself up. I was putting my hands inside my shirt, just shivering, waiting for Mary to come. Time is passing and passing. All of a sudden, 9 o'clock hits, and I hear a click because I was in front of the YMCA. I heard the door open. And I'm like, finally, I can go inside. I didn't care. I walk inside the YMCA, and there were seats that were positioned against the wall in the YMCA, in the foyer, or whatever the heck it's called, the entrance of the YMCA. So I found myself a seat. It was nice and warm, and I immediately passed out sleeping. I was so tired because I hadn't slept all night. And the guy at the front desk didn't ask me anything, so I just sat down, pretending that I was waiting for somebody, and I just passed out. I don't know how long after, maybe a half hour later, I was woken up by some talking. Well, my eyes opened up, and I could hear the voices talking, and it just so happened there was tons of empty seats across the entire wall, but somebody had decided to sit right next to me, talking to the person that was at the front desk on this side of me. I look over, it was that security guard that we had ran away from the night before in the hallway. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm dead. He's going to catch me. He's going to recognize me. I'm dead. So it seemed like eternity at this moment that I stood up and I started walking towards the door. And I could see the door. And it felt like forever just to reach this door. And I'm trying not to walk too fast, not too slow, because I don't want to raise any concerns. And I'm walking, waiting for any second for him to say, hey, you're the kid last night that came in and broke into the place. Sure enough, I reach the door, I walk out, the door shuts behind me, nobody comes out, and I'm thinking, oh my God, no problem, I've made it safe. Well, wouldn't you know, the Mary decides to come back there at 10 o'clock. So for 2 hours, I was waiting in the cold. Freezing! She comes with a cab with Rami. Just laughing, the cab door opens up. I remember her laughing and coming on, hey, fan, blah, blah, blah. And I said, what are you doing? I've been waiting. You know what happened last night? I got arrested and this and this. And I've been waiting since 8 o'clock. So she goes, shut up. Like, what do you mean, shut up? Like, I had so much frustrations that I wanted to just to let it out. But I couldn't. She was older than me. And she was telling me to shut up. What am I going to do? Anyways, I shut up. Told her what happened. She freaked out. But realized that it was under control. Like, she wasn't going to get busted. I got busted. So we went home. This is a Sunday. On Monday, I was waiting to see Dwayne at school. I'm thinking, oh man, what happened with him? Like, when he went home and all this kind of stuff. I go to school Monday. Dwayne's not there. Days. In the afternoon, after lunch, I look around. Dwayne's not there. Like, where the frick's Dwayne? That night, an inspector ended up coming over to the house to write a report or whatever. And as he's sitting there writing my report, asking me for what happened and all this kind of stuff, I go, what happened to Dwayne? I looked for him at school today. I couldn't see him. He says Dwayne ended up leaving. His parents, his stepdad, ended up sending him out to Alberta or BC or something like that, Nova Scotia. I don't know where he went. With his real dad. I go, what? He goes, yeah. And that was the last time I seen Dwayne. Never seen him after that. So the last time that I seen Dwayne was in that little jail cell where we kind of like shook hands and said, hey man, we'll see you when we get out. That was the end of it. And I've always wondered what happened to Dwayne LaBelle. I was in grade 9. We were both little punks. Now we had these journeys since grade 9. I'm 40 years old right now. And we experienced a lot of problems, up and down, and all these things in our lives. But that was one night that really stuck with me. That was one night that was pretty profound. And I didn't exaggerate anything in this story. And I always wondered, like, I got my version of the story. But what's Dwayne's version? What happened to him? How did he perceive this? What happened to him when he left? What happened in the last 25 years? This is insane. I hope one day to find Dwayne. To find out what happened with him. We all have this script and this movie in our lives. Our lives is scripted, obviously. We're in reverse. I always wondered, what happened with Dwayne? Well, Dwayne, if you ever see this, that's my story. I'd love to hear yours.